I'm Shane White, and this is The Process.
I'm Shane Patrick White, and this is another edition of The Process. Today on The Process, I'm going to do a demo. It's going to be more of a storytelling demo than anything else. Now, when you're creating storyboards for a client, sometimes you have to do it in the moment. And that means either the script is complete or the client is not really sure what the script entails. So they're going to talk it through with you. And oftentimes, that means hopefully you'll have had enough sleep so you can follow along as they tell you about their wonderful idea. So what I like to do is, if I have a wipe-off board, I like to work big, and that way I can get up there and show everybody what I'm doing, especially if there's more than one person in the room. And so if we're trying to communicate an idea to a lot of people, it's pretty important that everyone can see, weigh in on it, who has to weigh in on it. You want to make sure all the stakeholders are in the room. Otherwise, it's a waste of everyone's time and the waste of a meeting. So, just as an example, I don't really have a script in front of me. I'm just gonna sort of make this up as I go. Usually in most scenes when you're creating something, you're going to do a location shot. So that'll be your establishing shot. So now we know where we are. City. And usually that's, I don't know, I'd call that, it'd be like scene 1, frame 1. Anytime a scene switches, say it goes into the interior of a bedroom, then that would be like scene 2. But we're in scene 1, which is going to be an exterior of some generic city. Then frame 2, we'll do frame 3, and frame 4. Okay. So from here, let's just say we'll do a real basic hero's journey kind of thing. And say we get this character coming into the frame. And he's just perched on top of one of these buildings. I could allude to it here, or I could allude to it here, which probably is better compositionally, because it's within one of the thirds, which is, if you're not familiar with the golden rule or the rule of thirds, you gotta wiki that stuff. Okay, so let's make this a Spider-Man character, because why not? Spider-Man's cool. Maybe it's not the real Spider-Man, because otherwise he'd be stuck to a wall, because that's what he does, right? So now he's on the edge of a building. This would probably be like a medium down shot, is what somebody might describe it as. A Spider-Man looking figure is looking out over Manhattan. Because that's where he operates out of, right? Okay, so we don't have to really spend a lot of time with this, but you have a sense of direction, and maybe in this case we have the camera moving in frame left. And I'll mark that with a camera. So from here, just for kicks, there's going to be an action. Let's say that he witnesses something going on down below. And so that is the inciting incident that makes him want to literally jump into action. And so when I do this sort of thing, there's obviously a lot of ways you can approach the storyboard. And that's why I developed a thing that I used to use in game studios, which kept the story flow moving, but people could see possibilities in real time. And I'll show you what I mean here. So we have Spider-Man leaping off a building. So it looks like he's just flat out leaping. Storyboards aren't necessarily linear. I look at them as potential to have options. So in option A or B, maybe he's attacked by a villain suddenly, instead of having a chance to go down and investigate the danger in the city below. So maybe we have the Vulture. Always liked the Vulture. He was just kind of this weird, creepy dude. I don't know if they've really explored the Vulture much. Though I heard Michael Keaton actually played the character. Don't know if he did a good job or not. Considering that he just finished up Birdman, yeah, he knows a thing or two about birds. Okay, let's... Like I said, I'm just making this up, so I don't know if this is viable. Does he have claws? I don't know. Maybe he does. Let's say today he's got claws, and he's got those that little furry neck thing. Anyway, so this is probably more like the 70s version of the character. Now I know I'm spending a lot more time on it than I need to, but I'm trying to make a point that if you're trying to sell ideas, you have to be able to have the flexibility to try things. So the camera would have cut around or moved around in this direction. By canting the camera angle, it gives us a sort of an urgency that the entire scene is out of whack, and that gravity is going to take hold and pull the weight of the Vulture on top of Spider-Man. And then there's another option, option B. Let's say he goes from frame 2 to option B, which is maybe he doesn't want to jump. Maybe he just wants to hang out. Or maybe he's brooding. Yeah, that's it. Let's go with that. He's brooding. So even though he's in a low state, we can do that all with body language. Heck, let's even do it with frame. So a way we create loneliness or a sense of loss is increase the negative space. So you have all this negative space to do that with. I'm getting really particular for some reason. So Spider-Man's feeling bad about something. The perpetual girl trouble, the relationship issues, job issues. It could be any number of things. But he's hanging out on a building. Maybe he just got here and he's sitting down. Kind of like this idea. And by placing him over here, there's more tension with the edge of the frame, and that puts the tension on his head. Maybe there's a pigeon here in the foreground, kind of acting as a comic relief. Because every tragedy should have some degree of comedy just before the heartstrings get pulled. I read that somewhere. But it's true. It's really true. And Spider-Man operates during the day and the night, so everything's fair game. So maybe we'll still cant the camera a little bit. You don't want to go too little. You want to make sure that you do it enough where it's like, oh, we really meant to do that. That you're not just, that it's not just misaligned. I've done that a few times where, and canting means you're just turning the camera a little bit to make things out of whack. I've done it in a way where it wasn't enough and it just looked like I didn't know how to use a T-square. And for those folks playing at home, a T-square is a traditional art tool that lines things up. Okay. So here we have another option for panel or frame 3. Now, because you've thrown this option out there, it's one of those things where it invites discussion, because then we're going to try to figure out, okay, what happens in panel 4? You want to make sure that, again, people feel good about the decision, and if they need to rethink the script, add more to it, rework the story in some way, then that could be a stopping point for them. But for now, what would you pick? I don't know, what would I pick? Who's leaping into action? I don't know. I think, well, it's funny. You go from lots of action to some action to inaction. So what's the most interesting? It depends on what kind of story you want to tell. I think in all these stories, you're going to get a different result. But I would venture to guess I would want to maybe do something with action on the 4th frame. So if he's down here like this, he leaps into the scene as such. Maybe in this case, because really it's Spider-Man, we kind of need to, let's do it this way. It's got to be shooting some webs, right? Again, this is the kind of thing you would have to be very, what's the word, flexible about. It's the other thing about doing storyboards digitally as opposed to the way I used to do it. So much more flexibility. But when I was doing it traditionally, I got down the information that I needed to get down without delay. So that helped my accuracy as opposed to maybe searching. When I worked for a design firm, computers were just starting to become really part of the pipeline for design and like designing type and packaging. So I ended up trying to design a logo on the computer, but the art director did not like that idea. His theory, or his idea, was, his feeling was that the fonts would limit your choices and you would not have come up with the best idea. So when it comes to designing, we had more control over logos and such, where we were designing like every phase of the project. So that's what we did, we did logos, we did packaging, the whole nine. But if you're just using a font, yeah, he did not like that. Okay, so, boom, Spider-Man swinging in, like so. And now let's look at the angle again of the camera. Now some directors will, not look fondly on that. And that's the kind of conversations you end up having early on. With the director of photography, the director, you get to see what kind of people you're working with. What their aesthetics are. Then you sort of have to match that with whatever you choose to do. I mean, you're not just a wrist, you're there to move a story along, to communicate the script the best way you know how. And I feel like this sort of on-the-fly meeting grade storyboard work is a good way to go. Now, I have not done this sort of thing digitally in a meeting situation. I don't know if there's any hang-ups in terms of latency, but I would think that this might be another option as opposed to doing it on a whiteboard, because at least the digital file is on a system and you don't just have to take a photograph and then hope that you took it before someone wipes the board down. So, okay. This is just one of many ways to solve storytelling problems. But it's one of my favorites because it's very agile. And it makes for a fun and engaging situation. If you liked the video, please click like, subscribe, tell a friend, or go to my Patreon at patreon.com/Shane Patrick White, and you can learn more about storytelling, running a business, comics, all kinds of fun stuff. Until next time, talk to you later, and thanks.